In this video, I will first show you how we create a session. Then we will take care of the attendee management. After that, we will run an election event. And finally, I will show you where you can see the summarized results of your event in the evaluations. First, let's start by creating a presentation. We'll do this by going to the Events button and then Votings. A new meeting will be created. In this example, we call it Annual General Meeting. We confirm Create Event. First, we go to the Settings. Here under the button General, we can maintain a welcome text. This text appears on the screen of the participants after they have logged in. It is also visible when there is no voting in progress. We can also upload a picture that will appear on the screen of the participants. In addition, we can enter a thank you text that should appear after voting. Then, we save these settings. In the settings for the charts, it is very important to turn off the switch for dynamic charts for election events because the results should only be shown when everyone has voted. We go to Questions and Answers and also turn this off in our example. Otherwise, the participants could ask questions via TEDME. Furthermore, we don't want to run a chat in our event. Furthermore, you could now set different languages here or change the layout by hiding a header, etc. So much for the general settings. Now we come to the voting questions that we want to ask the participants in our event. We'll go to Questions and add our individual questions to the event. We're going to start Add Question. The question should be, do you agree with the agenda? Now here, we have the different question types to choose from. In the paid version, all question types are available. In the free version, the special question types for elections are missing, but all polls can be mapped with the basic question types like single choice, multiple choice, and free text. Let's take a single choice here. Question: do you agree? Yes. No. Abstention. Now we create another question. For example, do we want to discharge the executive board? We now take a special choice question here, namely a question of the TEPME resolution. Here we have additional options. For example, we want to display information about voting behavior. We can also display information about majorities. There are different majority options that can be calculated and displayed. During the resolution, the answer options, yes, no, abstention, are set automatically. Now, we create a personal election as an example. We now select the question type, multiple choice election. Of course, this also works with a normal multiple choice question. We define here that the participant may choose a minimum of 0 persons and a maximum of 3 persons. If he chooses 0 persons, this would be considered as an abstention. We now add the people who are available to vote here. Grace Hall, Elena Gonzalez, Liam Carter, Mia Adams, Victor Sanchez, Ethan Wright, and Marie Dupont. After that, we save the question. We have now created our ballot questions so far. You can add more questions at any time, swap the order, and you can always edit and change the question again with the Edit button. Now that we have created this, let's take care of the participant management. We create a list of participants who are allowed to attend this meeting. So in this example now, our members are shareholders. We give this list of participants a name, in this case, participants of the general meeting. We want the meeting to be secret, i.e., it is not possible to see who voted how, but only who voted on the individual voting questions. We would also like to allow substitutions, and otherwise, we can now import the list of participants from an Excel file here. We can also do this later, but also right now when creating. The list is very simple, namely in an Excel list in the first column, the email address of the participant. In the second column, you can enter numbers, which are used as PIN or token for the participants. You usually leave them empty, and TEDME will automatically generate an individual PIN or token for each participant. The third column is for the voting shares. The fourth and the fifth column are for the name. As an example, here is an Excel list. In the first column, I have the email addresses. We leave the second column empty because we want TEDME to generate the pins or tokens here. The third column is for the voting shares. The fourth and fifth columns are filled with the names. In my example, I have written the name and first name in the fourth column and the companies that the participants belong to in the fifth column. Now I want to import this list here. I select them and go to Save. TEDME has now created these participants and generated an individual PIN number for each participant. We are now here in the Participant Management module. We could always add new participants individually, or upload more lists if we want to add more participants. We could also generally set up substitutions here, where we would say, for example, Ava Martinez is represented by Javier Torres. I have created a substitution here, but I can also create substitutions by clicking on a participant in the participant list, such as Tim Koros here. Go to Edit and specify that he should substitute Benjamin Harris. These are now my setup proxies. I can view and change this again here at any time under the Proxies button. At the bottom of the list, you will find the invitation editor. Now let's take care of the invitation. If we go to the list of participants here, at the bottom of the list, you will find the invitation editor. Here I can now formulate a special invitation text for the email invitation that will be sent to all participants. I can also change the default text here, but in this example, I will leave it at the default text. I can also add an attachment. In general, I can send an invitation email to each participant individually. The checkmark shows who has already received an invitation, but I can also send an invitation with a button to all participants at the same time who have not received an invitation yet. This will now be sent. I myself have now also received an invitation in this example, since I am on this list. This invitation looks like this. In this example, the TEDME logo is in the invitation. Of course, in the paid version of TEDME, you can see your own logo. In this invitation is now my individual PIN, which I need as a participant for the login on the day of the event. Let's summarize. We have now created the event. We have set up the attendees and sent the invitation. By the way, if we reset the invitation status, we can send a reminder mail again to all attendees one day before the event. For example, now we come to the day of the event. We go to the button Events. We select our created meeting and start it by pressing the arrowhead here. Then we assign a desired room name. If we don't assign a name, TEDME will automatically assign a room name. Share. The room should remain open until today at 19:04, and only participants who are in this list are allowed as participants for this event. Very important is this selection of the list of participants. So now we press Start. We have now started our authenticated session. Attendees can now dial in by either clicking on the link on their invitation or by scanning the QR code that you can display here on the presentation wall. Classically, participants can also go to TEDME.com and enter the room name. They then have to enter their individual PIN or token. They are then logged into the session and see the cityscape and the welcome text. You, as a moderator, can now freely scroll through the questions you have created in your moderation view. The participants do not see this on their devices. You can also select a question directly on the left and jump to it. In my example, I now go to the first question again. After the introduction, I now want to trigger this question. To do this, I go to the Start Voting button at the bottom. The question pops up for the participants. I vote first for myself, and then for the person I am allowed to represent, since we had set up earlier that I, as Tim Koros, may represent Benjamin Harris at the event. We can see on the presentation wall on the bottom left that 2 people have voted. If then so far all have voted, we can then stop the vote. First of all, here is a piece of information. If you click on the detail on the bottom left, you will see the maximum number of participants that are invited or would be possible, and how many of them have voted at the current time. We stop the poll and see 2,000 votes, yes to 35,000, no votes. Let's go to the next example. Here again. We trigger the question. I vote first for Tim Koros and then for Benjamin Harris, and send the result. Now, as moderator, we stop the poll, and here again we see our result. In this example, 35,000. Yes votes to 2,000, no votes. Since it was a resolution question, where we set that, we also want to see the voting behavior. We also see here below how many valid votes were cast and how many abstentions there were. Similarly, we would have also seen the majorities displayed here. We will move on to the election of persons. Here we have specified that you may vote between 0 and a maximum of 3 persons. So, a limitation to a maximum of 3. I cast my vote. I stop the result as moderator, and we have the result of our person election. We also have the option of putting spontaneous votes to the participants at any time that were not set in advance. This can occur, for example, in the case of a runoff election, or spontaneous requests made by a participant to be put to the vote. As an example, I could formulate a question here, choose from several question types, and spontaneously put it to a vote. When our session is finished so far, we can return here to the administration and now turn to the evaluations. Under the evaluations, we have different side tabs. Under votings, all votes that we have put are listed individually, with timestamp, date, etc. We can download these as graphic files or export them as PDF and Excel, etc. But the best thing is under the page tab Sessions, the overall journal. In this overall journal, our entire session is logged. We see the session with the date, click on it, and get the overall log. In this example, we see that out of 22 possible participants, 2 have attended, one of whom is a substitute. We see the time when which person logged in. Furthermore, we see the first voting question with the metadata, i.e. when it was asked, how the turnout was, and what the individual result was, including the listing of which participant voted on this question. In addition, the individual answers are listed for plausibility, whereby the order is random here, since it was a secret ballot. If we had set Not Secret in the settings, the respective individual votes would be listed behind the respective name of the participant. Below that is the presentation of the next voting question, in each case also with the individual answers. Below this is our third vote with the choice of persons for the committee. I hope you enjoyed the video, thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoy trying it. Goodbye.